Hello everyone and welcome to our music lesson this fourth quarter period. This lesson will cover all your music modules this quarter. The main focus of this lesson is all about the vocal music during the Romantic period. At the end of this discussion, I will be showing the activities you need to answer. So listen carefully in discussion and take down notes of the important details that may help you in answering the modules. Let's now begin with the lesson. How do you express your feelings? Is it through writing, painting, dancing, singing, or acting? What do you feel when these emotions are not expressed? Vocal music is one of the best tools for expressing one's feelings. This form of expression became more evident during the Romantic period. The Romantic period's basic quality is emotional subjectivity. Composers explore feelings of grandiosity, intimacy, unpredictability, sadness, rapture, and longing. Romantic vocal forms like the art song and operas were about fantasy, supernatural, romance, and the nature as mirror of the human heart. Virtuoso performers are not only instrumentalists but also singers. One singer sometimes sounds like several characters by use of different vocal register. To fully understand and appreciate vocal music of the Romantic period, this lesson will let you discover the cultural developments and artistic forms of expression of the period. By understanding the past, we learn to appreciate the things we enjoy today. The parallelisms of music and literature were clearly evident in almost all forms of vocal music during the Romantic period. Composers interpret poems, mood, atmosphere, and imagery into music. Musical compositions such as the art song was written for solo voice and piano. Like all program music, art song has its inspiration from poetry in this period. Mood is often set at the beginning with piano introduction and concluded with a piano postlude. Romantic artists found inspiration in landscapes. Their subjects were traditional myths, legends, and folklore, usually dealing with supernatural, grotesque, and less ordinary. Vocal music in this period requires singers to perform a great range of tone color, dynamics, and pitch. Because of this, opera became an important source of musical expressions. The birth of opera houses came. It was the place where all the arts converged, not only music but poetry, painting, architecture, and the dances as well. Let us now proceed to the most famous vocal music in the Romantic period, which is called opera. Opera became increasingly popular during the Romantic period. It is a musical composition having all or most of its text set to music with arias, recitative, choruses, duets, trios, etc., sung to orchestral accompaniment. The opera is usually characterized by elaborate costumes, scenery, and choreography. This time, we will discover the different components of an opera. The first one is called libretto. This is the text of an opera. Librettist and the composer work closely together to tell the story. Next one is called score. This is the book that the composer and librettist put together. The score has all the musical notes, words, and ideas to help the performers tell the story. Often, there are operas with overtures, preludes, prologues, several acts, finales, and postludes. Another component is called recitative. This is declamatory singing used in the prose parts and dialogue of opera. Different roles in operas are created, taking into account different types of voices. Each role requires a different type of singer, not only able to sing a given vocal range, but also with certain voice characteristics, color, and power. Next component is the aria. This is an air or solo singing part sung by a principal character. This song is what the public will remember best when leaving the opera house. Properly and well sung, a beautiful aria can bring an audience to its feet and decide the fate of an entire opera. The last two components are the acts and scene. Acts are the main divisions of an opera, while scene is the setting or place. This time, we will learn the life history and the famous compositions of the different opera composers of the Romantic period. Let us start with Franz Peter Schubert. The proper name for Franz Schubert's songs is actually Lieder, which is the German word for songs. Lieder is a German term for composition for solo voice and piano. Schubert developed Lieder so that they had a powerful dramatic impact on the listeners. He is considered the last of the classical composers and one of the first romantic ones. His famous vocal music works or Lieder were Gretchen am Spinnrad, Erlkönig, Ellen's Gesang III, translated as Ave Maria, and Schwanengesang, which means swan song. He also wrote piano pieces, string quartets, operetta, and the Symphony No. 8 in B minor entitled Unfinished Symphony. Schubert was born on the 31st of January 1797 in Himmelpfortgrund, Austria, and died in 1828 in Vienna, Austria, at the age of 31. Next composer is Giuseppe Verdi. A name associated with romantic opera is that of Verdi. His characters are ordinary people and not those of the royal family like those found in German operas. He insisted on a good libretto and wrote operas with political overtones and for middle-class audience. Verdi was born in Parma, Italy on October 9, 1813. He studied in Boceto and later went to Milan where his first opera, Oberto, was performed in La Scala, the most important opera house at that time. Almost all his works are serious love story with unhappy ending. Expressive vocal melody is the soul of a Verdi opera. He completed 25 operas throughout his career. His final opera ends with All the World's a Joke. Some of his famous operas are still being produced and performed worldwide. His much acclaimed works are La Traviata, Rigoletto like La Donna e Mobile, Falstaff, Otello and Aida, where he wrote for the opening of the Suez Canal. He died in Milan, Italy on January 27, 1901. Next composer is Richard Wagner. Wilhelm Richard Wagner was born in Leipzig, Germany on May 22, 1813. Wagner introduced new ideas in harmony and in form, including extremes of chromaticism. He also explored the limits of the traditional tonal system that gave keys and chords its own identity, which paved the way for the rise of atonality in the 20th century. Wagner exerted a strong influence on the operatic medium. He was an advocate of a new form of opera which he called music drama, where musical and dramatic elements were fused together. He developed a compositional style in which the orchestra has of equal importance in dramatic roles as the singers themselves. The expressiveness is aided by the use of leitmotifs or musical sequences standing for a particular character or plot element. His famous works were Tristan and Isolde, Die Valkyrie, Die Meistersinger, Tannhauser, and Parsifal. His work would later influence modern film scores, including those of the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings film series. Wagner died of a heart attack on February 13, 1883 at the age of 69. And for the last composer, we have Georges Bizet. Georges Bizet was registered with the legal name Alexandre César Léopold Bizet, but was baptized Georges Bizet and was always known by the latter name. He was born on October 25, 1838 in Paris, France. He entered the Paris Conservatory Music at a very young age. Bizet became famous for his operas, and his most famous opera is Carmen. However, when Carmen first opened in Paris, the reviews were terrible. The shows were criticized in horrible ways that resulted in poor audience attendance. During the first round of Carmen performances, Bizet died. This was on June 3, 1875. He was only 36. But 4 months later, Carmen opened in Vienna, Austria, and was a smash hit. It is now one of the most popular operas ever written. Bizet never knew that audiences would come to consider it as his masterpiece. This time, I will show you 2 examples of the famous operas from the Romantic period and the story behind each opera. The first one is entitled La Traviata. The music is by Giuseppe Verdi, and the libretto was written in Italian by Francesco Maria Piave, which is based on La Dame aux Camélias, which is a play by Alexandre Dumas, after his novel by the same name. The play is known in English as Camille. The premiere was in Venice in March 6, 1853. La Traviata is categorized as a romantic tragedy. This was set in Paris, France during 1850. Originally in 3 acts, but present-day productions are usually in 4 acts, dividing the original Act 2 in Act 1, Violetta's Paris Salon, luxuriously furnished, Act 2, a villa near Paris, Act 3, ballroom in Flora's mansion, and Act 4, Violetta's bedroom. Here is the story or the synopsis of La Traviata. At one of her brilliant supper parties, the beautiful but frail demi-mondaine, which is a woman supported by a wealthy lover, Violetta Valerie, meets the well-born Alfredo Germont. They immediately fell in love and she decided to abandon her life of pleasure. Alfredo's father did not approve of their lifestyle in the country and demands that Violetta renounce Alfredo. Violetta, determined to make the sacrifice, then departs and leaves only a note for Alfredo. She appears at a ball in Flora's house on the arm of an old admirer, Baron Dufault, which makes Alfredo angry. Alfredo challenges the Baron to play cards, where Alfredo wins consistently. Unable to persuade Violetta to go with him, Alfredo insults her. Violetta becomes ill, and all her friends desert her, leaving her virtually penniless. Alfredo returns to Violetta. His father told him of the real story behind Violetta's departure from their country house and urged him to seek her forgiveness. Overjoyed at the sight of him, Violetta attempts to rise but falls into Alfredo's arms. Germont and the doctor enters as Violetta dies. Another one of the famous operas during the Romantic period is Madame Butterfly. The music is by Giacomo Puccini, and the libretto was written in Italian by Giuseppe Giacosa and Luigi Illica. from the short story by John Luther Long, derived from Pierre Loti's tale Madame Chrysantheme. This is a romantic tragedy. Set numbers recitative. Setting in Nagasaki, Japan at the beginning of the 20th century. 2 acts, Act 2 with 2 parts. Here is the story or the synopsis of Madame Butterfly. When American naval vessels frequented Japan seaports, American Lieutenant Benjamin Franklin Pinkerton met Shosha-san, which means butterfly, and was captivated by her beauty. Pinkerton rented a Japanese house, and part of his rental package is his betrothal to Shosha-san. Treating the marriage merely as a casual affair, Pinkerton returns to America after the wedding, leaving Shosha-san loyally waiting for his return. He marries an American woman named Kate. When he returned to Japan 3 years later with his American wife, he learns that he bore a son with Shosha-san. Upon learning that Pinkerton had married another woman, Shosha-san kills herself to make sure that Pinkerton takes their son with him. This time, let's move on to the different types of the voices of singers for both male and female singers. For the male singers, we have the first one, tenor, which is the highest male voice. The second one is called baritone, which is the middle male voice, which lies between bass and tenor voices. It is the common male voice. And the last one is the bass. This is the lowest male voice. For the female singers, they have soprano, the highest female voice, coloratura, the highest soprano voice, lyric, which is a bright and full sound, dramatic, darker full sound, mezzo-soprano, the most common female voice, strong middle voice, tone is darker or deeper than the soprano, and the range is A3 to A5 in piano. Last one is contralto. This is the lowest female voice and most unique among female. Dynamics and vocal embellishments were used to further affect the way singers sing. Some musical terms are used like a cappella, which means one or more singers performing without instrumental accompaniment, cantabile, in a singing style, capo, head or the beginning, coda, closing section appended to a movement or song, dolce, which means sweetly. Falsetto, a weaker and more airy voice, usually in the higher pitch ranges. Glissando, sliding quickly between 2 notes. Passaggio, parts of a singing voice where register transitions occur. Rubato, slight speeding up or slowing down of the tempo of a piece at the discretion of the soloist. Tessitura, the most comfortable singing range of a singer. Vibrato, rapidly repeated slight pitch variation during a sustained note to give a richer and more varied sound. Training to sing for opera usually requires a long process of voice lessons or study. It also requires a lengthy time of practice for you to master your voice. For many singers, the long process of studying also means starting early in life. The list below shows you the different aspects that you need to learn as you train for opera. The first one is the sound or tone color. For opera, the performance is about the quality of sound that the singer makes. Singing opera requires you to sing long phrases and to sing loud enough to be heard over an orchestra in large halls. Second one is the bel canto technique. When singing opera, the focus of the performance is on the singing technique. Opera technique is called bel canto, which literally means beautiful singing. This is done by singing with your mouth and throat wide open and used with the proper breath support to project the voice through the entire hall. endurance for long operas is an issue for singers. You have to practice a lot so that you can sing well for the entire length of the opera, which can be 2 to 4 hours. The third one is the language. Opera singers often sing in Italian, French, German, or Russian. You don't have to be fluent in all these languages, but you want to be familiar enough with them that you can easily sing and sound like you are fluent in these languages. The fourth one is posture. Proper posture promotes efficient breathing, which is essential to projection, tone quality, and vocal range. The ideal posture for singing is erect yet relaxed. Overall good health and physical fitness are also important. The fifth one is vocal range. One major goal of every singer is to have a well-developed and impressive singing range. In order to achieve this, a singer should establish good vocal habits in the most comfortable placement of the voice and then slowly expanding the range. And the last one is endurance. Singers are expected to perform well even if it will take an hour or more to perform. Endurance is expected from singers who also practice long hours to give a good and memorable performance. Even today, popular singers still showcase their talents to a high level of performance. The need to capture the audience with their extraordinary vocal ability is still the main reason for showcasing their talents. Many musical plays are inspired by these operas of the Romantic period. They emulate the same intense emotions but are now put into the present context. This time, let's know more about the vocal music in the Philippine setting. In the Philippines, the zarzuela, also known as the drama simbolico, was a traditional theater genre that dominated the Philippine theater scene over 100 years. It was first introduced by Dario Cespedes. Like the opera of the Romantic period, its storyline was commonly based on domestic issues that often exemplified a strong sense of Filipino nationalism and anguish against the country's foreign imperialists. Famous writers of zarzuela include Benigno Zamora, Severino Reyes, and Clodoaldo del Mundo. Dalagang Bukid, also known as Country Maiden in the year 1919, is arguably the most popular zarzuela in Tagalog. Today, singers like Maria Callas and Kirsten Chenoweth are famous because of their performances of different operas and musical plays abroad. In the Philippines, artists like Isay Alvarez, Robert Senya, Monique Wilson, Jamie Rivera, and Lea Salonga also became famous not only in the local scene but abroad as well for their roles in musical plays like the Miss Saigon. In fact, Lea Salonga won various international awards like the Oliver, Tony, Drama Desk, and Theatre World Awards. She also received the Order of La Candula Award from Philippine President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in recognition of her excellence in her craft and for using her talents to benefit Philippine society. This time, this is the generalization of this whole lesson about the vocal music of the Romantic period. Heralded by the French Revolution, the Romantic period was one of subjectivity. The music is intensely emotional, deriving its strength from massive forces and vivid orchestration. It was also in this period that the virtuoso emerged and performed in numerous concerts. The Romantic era brought further changes in the world of vocal music. The art song, lied, became a special category of vocal music. Composers made great strides during this time to closely associate the text or words of a piece with its musical counterpart. The real achievements of the Romantics in theater were in opera. One of the striking characteristics of the late 18th and early 19th centuries is the development of the idea of romantic love linked to marriage. Romantic operatic voice is trained to be full and rich, powerful enough to fill an opera house in the days before electronic amplification. And that ends our lessons for the fourth quarter of music today. I hope you learned a lot about the vocal music of the Romantic period. Now, as I said earlier, I will show you the activities that you need to answer in your music modules this fourth quarter. We only have 2 music modules this quarter, so please make sure to complete all your activities. That ends our lesson for today. Please make sure to finish all your music fourth quarter activities. And if you have any questions, you can reach me through these posted social media platforms. Thank you for listening and see you in our next lesson.